Hempsley is a kind of unique company in some unique space in the cannabis world. That's a hot topic right now. One thing that we talked about beforehand is she's presented at a couple 1 million cup sessions and gets a lot of questions about the industry and not so much about her business. So as she's presenting, let's think of great questions and comments that can be constructive feedback for her relative to her business plan and the specific focus areas that she has. So with that being said, let's welcome Kristen Williams to the stage.
Well, thank you all so much for having me today. My name is Kristen Williams, and I am the founder and CEO of Hempsley. So before we get started here, how many of you all have tried CBD before? Show of hands. Okay, great. And then how many of you all were aware that CBD was supporting a system in your body that balances all of your other systems, called the endocannabinoid system? Nobody? Okay.
I can't do anything without homework. I'm a CPS.
Okay, excellent. Well, at Hempsley, it's our goal to introduce you to the system and help you understand how to care for it, both with and without cannabis. Our mission is essentially to empower you with knowledge so that you can begin taking better care of yourself and your loved ones. And this is through lots of different things outside of cannabis as well, essential oils, herbs, and lots more. So I grew up in Columbia, Missouri, and I was always a really good kid. I never talked in class, I got good grades, I spent my free time doing things like youth group and mission trips, and never once touched drugs or alcohol all throughout high school. It wasn't until my second year of college when I had a good friend convince me that I really needed to do my own research and try this plant for myself before I would continue to judge other people for it. This was someone that I really trusted and knew wouldn't lead me astray, so I took what they said to heart, did the research, and found out that it wasn't what I had thought at all. About a year later, I heard the story of Charlotte Figge, who was a little girl who was having about 300 grand mal seizures per week, and her parents were giving her CBD oil to subdue these seizures. And I got to the end of reading the CNN article, and I was just completely distraught over the public's backlash against her parents for giving her a drug. I was a total nerd. I had done the research and understood the how behind why this little girl wasn't getting high, but coming from the background I do, I also understood the public's concern. But I simply could not wrap my head around anyone trying to take this medicine away from this little girl and sending her back into having 300 seizures a week, or trying to send her parents to prison for just trying to help her. And so that's when I became passionate about helping people understand the therapeutic and non-intoxicating benefits that this plant had to offer. I entered the industry almost 6 years ago now as a graphic designer and began traveling to legal markets all around the country. The more I traveled and experienced these different markets, the more I wanted to find a way to bring back everything I was learning to my own community here in Missouri and help the people who raised and supported me through my whole life feel better. At the time, there really wasn't a resource that I felt comfortable sending my grandma or my neighbor down the street to that wasn't gonna make me look like a stoner or incriminate me in some way. And so I launched Hempsley in January 2017 as a way to connect with a more conservative Midwestern demographic. The primary problem that the cannabis industry and the CBD industry specifically is facing right now is that it's a completely unregulated market. So the 2018 Farm Bill took CBD derived from hemp off of the Schedule I drug list on the federal level, but the FDA has still not released regulations about how to manage these products. A new report shows that 70% of the CBD products on the market right now are actually mislabeled or contaminated due to lack of regulation. This is a really big problem, not only for consumers who are looking, trying to navigate the new and unfamiliar world of buying CBD, but also CBD companies who are producing quality product and are getting written off as snake oil and becoming demonized for it. Now at Hempsley, we've spent the past 2.5 years becoming an online trusted resource and also getting out in our own local community to do workshops, and we've even launched an app that can help you learn about the endocannabinoid system and all the different ways you can care for it. In the past 6 months, we've really been faced with the question, do we launch our own line of CBD products? And we ultimately landed on no. We decided that rather than go out and create our own line, what people really need right now is to learn how to choose products that are best for them. So one of our top pieces of content has always been reviews. And really, we feel that these help bridge the gap between the new consumer and the industry itself. So we're in the process right now of relaunching a new comprehensive review system. This new review system will incorporate doing our own third-party testing of products. Right now, people can have lab reports done on their products, but they don't have to have them done. Also, different labs use different units to report for different things, and then there's not standards across from state to state on the amount of acceptable pesticides, residual solvents, and heavy metals that can be found in a product. So we're working on building a standard for the whole country that we feel is safe for a customer, and then doing our own submission of product to labs to get those lab reports back to make sure that they're all consistent. That way we can present it to the customer, assure their safety of a product, and then also build trust through transparency and allow for easy comparison. This horizontal version of the graphic that we'll be compiling all the information about a company into very much allows you to quickly access, what is the cost per milligram? What is the strength of a product compared to other products? How was it grown? How was it extracted? What are the different cannabinoids that are actually in that product? And so people can easily compare from product to product across the board. Now, our main struggle with this right now that we're trying to work through before launching is how to maintain an unbiased position with these sponsored reviews. It costs anywhere from $365 to $800 to test one single product in a lab. So we obviously, by the time you add on doing a blog introduction, original photography, social media outreach, we're going to be charging a minimum of $1,000 for a review, almost up, eventually up to $2,500 depending on the package that they purchase. So we want to make sure that we are maintaining an unbiased status. And what if a company comes back to us and says, their lab report came back bad, but they really feel that their product is good? How do we mediate with that? And then how do we also make sure that we're testing bad products as well? The chances of a company who knows that their product isn't quality submitting to have their product reviewed by us are pretty slim. So is that important? And how do we make sure that we're doing that as well? And then also being able to scale the review process with coded autoflows. The image that you saw back here I do these by hand, so having some kind of coding system that allows the information to flow into a graphic so that it can be more scalable long term. So that is what we're working with right now. Thank you. Yeah.
How does medical marijuana impact what you're doing here?
Yeah, so we eventually would love to be able to review medical marijuana products as well. Again, there's no standard from state to state, and so putting a standard in place that we feel is truly safe for the consumer, and then holding medical marijuana products to the standard as well. There's one company out in Washington that actually pulls product off dispensary shelves and tests it, and then if it comes back to not meet standards, then they pull that product off the shelf entirely. So a big problem is that, with submitting samples to labs, you can just submit a very small sample of the actual bigger, larger crop that you have, essentially. And so while that one sample may come back well and good, the other parts are not. And so this company does do random third-party testing. And we've seen a lot of positive attention for that company. People love it. People love that they're holding people accountable. It's pushing the industry itself to hold itself to higher standards, make sure that they aren't using those pesticides and making sure that it is falling in safe levels for everyone. So we want to help extend this to the CBD industry, and then once we're established there, bring it out to Missouri medical marijuana, and then expand from state to state as well.
How many people do you employ then? How many?
So I've got one guy on payroll, and then I've got 3 interns and 3 contractors. So team of about 9 right now. Yeah.
Are there other companies or entities that are doing similar testing? Because I like the need to be able to go out and see, okay, how do I gauge the safety of this particular product that I'm looking at, the quality? Like I know that's from having done homework. I know that there's really nothing out there that shows that. Is there anybody else who's kind of trying to do the same thing?
People are doing reviews, but they're not this kind of rigorous review. I mean, we are literally going through a list of 94 pesticides and looking at each state, what their limit levels are, and then trying to find who has the lowest limit, what's actually considered safe by the government. But then, of course, even the government, certain levels of pesticides are acceptable in certain products, but not other products. So trying to wade through all that is really what we're working on right now. But there really isn't anyone doing it to this level, besides the company that's doing medical marijuana in Washington.
Because I agree with what you're saying about you need to be able to review the bad ones too.
Mm-hmm.
Have you looked at anything like Kickstarter? Because I feel like people who use CBD would absolutely say, like, I would like to know a good product from a bad product, and it's hard to be able to tell.
Right.
Is there any crowdfunding opportunity to be able to come up with just a pool of resources to use to fund those reviews?
Well, we launched a Patreon back in September of last year, and it really didn't do very well. Now, to be fair, we didn't put a whole lot of time into promoting it. We did a lot of setting up. We did some marketing for it, but not a whole lot. And I think a lot of that comes down to kind of trying to rely on people to fund us, as opposed to companies, because the problem that I find with the vast majority, especially our target market, is new consumers, and maybe that needs to shift if we want to really bring on, Patreon supporters or something to fuel reviews. But we found that it was just, the money lies in the companies, the CBD companies themselves, rather than the consumers who don't know that they need to know about this product, don't know that they need to learn about the endocannabinoid system, and then it's just hard to charge people for that kind of information. Yeah.
So a company makes CBD oil,
Mm-hmm.
and I can see where they would want to go through you to have it tested to show it's good content.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had companies come to you from only in Missouri or around the country? How do they even know that you are there?
They're from all over. So we really do have a really strong online presence. And due to my travels before I launched the company all over the country, I did lots of networking in various places. And so it's really those connections and then referrals as well have been a big part of that.
Have you thought about reaching out to the companies who you've currently done reviews on to ask for funding to go and create products and samples and figure out if their competitors are the ones that don't have the bad product, for example?
Well, we're working up a pitch to pitch them to invest in what it's going to cost. One of the companies we work with has about 12 products. So 12 times just the $365 minimum to test those products is quite an investment. So we've been working on that. But I like your idea of also pitching them, what are some of your top competitors that you want us to test? I think that could be effective. Yeah.
To tie on to that, have you thought about a subscription service to those companies who have the 12 products, that instead of them paying $365 every time they come out with a new product, if they're doing a monthly couple $100 or whatever the case may be, if that might be an ongoing revenue income stream for yourself?
Yeah, well, we're looking at putting them on retainer because a lot of what we do is content creation. That's where my background and strength really is. So putting these companies that we're already creating lots of infographics for, videos about their products, putting them on a monthly retainer to continue creating content with their product in the forefront. So somehow perhaps rolling that in, I think, is a great idea. We'll test at least 2 products on your behalf each month or something.
Is there a market niche or not for something other than reviews for certification, like a seal of approval, the Hempsley seal of approval?
Well, and that's kind of what we're working on. We want to have, kind of up in this corner, have a seal that denotes, and then people can present that on their site as well.
Then you don't have to worry about the bad, getting bad people or good people.
Yeah.
Companies would come to you to get the seal of approval that they can use
Right.
for their own marketing.
Right. So if they haven't come to us, that's the first red flag, I guess, in a way, if we get big enough. So yeah, there's lots of certification programs for education. So to get educated on how to talk about cannabis and the endocannabinoid system, but nothing as far as keeping a standard for product, actually.
What do you think the likelihood is that there is any government testing ahead for this?
So I know that the FDA is working on implementing regulations, but they were supposed to come out with them in May, and now they've said that they're meeting again this fall. And so it's just trying to keep consumers safe in the meantime. And then also, I think that especially in the cannabis industry, there's a lot of distrust of the government. So how do we really trust that the regulations the FDA is putting in place are really and truly what's safe and effective? So I think that, and that's a concern that I've had, once the FDA does come out with regulations, and the FDA could come out and say, all of the products that are being sold right now have to come off the shelves and you guys are done. And so it's very much, we're trying to position ourselves in a way that we can maintain authority, even if that were to happen, not relying on product sales, having our own line of products, things like that.
Not to sound like a broken record, but what do you know about blockchain technology? Because it's being used in the food industry to verify the chain, and this is basically that.
I know nothing besides what we just heard,
You might
so
want to talk to the guys who
yeah.
told me. I'm doing head of sales, but
Okay.
I am available.
Right.
I'll take his position.
Yeah.
Have you thought about selling ad space on your website? It sounds like you do have a pretty strong presence with your website.
Yeah, and so wrestling with not having, big banners popping up, but kind of coming back to that sponsored content again. So if you want to be listed on the homepage under the featured product section, paying to have that spot each however many months we decide on. And then also having sponsored content, so articles that we want to put out or infographics, maybe a review or a recipe. We can have money for that and have it be sponsored by a company. Yeah. What else?
Okay, I don't see any additional hands. So,
Okay.
Kristen, what can we as a community do for you?
So really, the top thing is become educated on CBD. If you are someone that could benefit from knowing more about CBD, we are designed for the most skeptical, conservative audience members. I built this for my grandma, so it's safe. She's not going to feel like she's looking at weed online. It's very, very approachable, and learning about lots of other natural wellness techniques as well. And then testing out our reviews, seeing what we've got. We'd love any feedback that you have and just sharing the word. We've also got an app and shameless plug social media if you want to download any of those. So,
Let's give Kristen a round of applause.
thank you.